This is Beyond the Bench with Nick Morgasen and Nick Fodera. A look at sports and pop culture from beyond common sense. The show that constantly goes off the rails and might never get back on. When you don't belong, you're a bench warmer. On this show, there's no riding the bench. This is Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Oh my God, Nick, we get to do a podcast of our own!
Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Beyond the Bench. I'm Nick Fodera, along with my venerable co-host, Mr. Nick Morgasen. We're a duo act now, and this, well, welcome to Beyond the Bench. Now, before we get into it, what is Beyond the Bench? Now, Beyond the Bench is, like it said in the intro, like the omniscient voice from Beyond said, it's pop culture. It's basically the two of us morons just yakking on and on and on about stuff we think is funny. And if you think it's funny, make sure you like and subscribe, just like the banner below tells you to.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe to the show. Follow the show on Twitter at Beyond the Bench. Follow the show on Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond the Bench. Now, before we get any questions about the Twitter account, which I'll throw back up there, people are going to say, Nick, did you not know how to spell, or did you not learn to spell? Even though I was a 100 average speller in elementary and middle school, by the way. But yes, it is at Beyond the Bench.
Beyond
the bench. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't speak. But all right, so
it's like it's an IKEA brand bench. Beyond.
Exactly. So just quick for people who don't know us from Empty the Bench, we are two of the three that do Empty the Bench. That's the name of the podcast network that we're on at ETB Network. And basically, Nick, you were a journalist, an aspiring journalist, trying to become a writer.
I was a journalist in training, and the job market basically kicked me in the ass. And now I'm a podcaster. Now I'm fully committed to the grind of podcast work. And here I am, and here's our wondrous brainchild. And I really have to thank, you for committing to this, because this is crazy. This is crazy on paper.
It is. It's crazy on paper. And just so people know who I am, obviously Nick being a journalist in training, I have been in the media business. I've been in broadcasting and radio. I worked at a, crazy station.
Nut job factory.
Right. At 77 WABC for almost 4 years. I also was a producer and a board op for the nationally syndicated John Batchelor Show, which was heard all around the world. I helped build that social media podcast audience from 200,000 downloads a month to close to 600,000 downloads a month, just from social media alone. So,
which really didn't exist before you got there.
Right. So let's just say we all know a thing or two about social media, but that's my background. Besides media, social media is my background. So here we go. Empty the Bench is usually our sports. This is, if you've listened to Empty the Bench, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of references to it on this show, we use a reference that Tom likes to use on us. Tom Albano, who's our third guy, will say, you guys go off the rails quite a bit.
So we decided, in our infinite wisdom or insanity, whichever way you want to slice it, what if we just did a podcast where we just went off the rails all the time and nobody was there to rein us in? Now, I'm sure that is about as wise as giving a monkey a knife, but nobody could stop us, right?
I don't see anybody.
I don't see any police. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody here who can stop us. So here we are. Here we are
in our infinite wisdom. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and Nick was asking me, the guys were both asking me about this. I went to a live taping of Rachel Ray's show, first time in months in the city, and this is unique. Getting into a TV taping.
It is unique getting into a TV tape because it is kind of anachronistic when you think about it. Because, I mean, daytime talk shows are the one relic of the 70s, 80s, and 90s that just won't go anywhere. It's just kind of there. You don't really mention it with any kind of reverence or as a pop cultural presence as you had in the 90s with Maury and Jerry Springer and Ricky Lake and Montel Williams. And who else am I missing? Am I missing somebody?
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, but the mustache does half the work.
Though the only reason I brought that up is because there will be references from time to time from Dr. Phil.
Yeah, but cooking, but I wouldn't have pegged you for a cooking show.
I love cooking. Like, I absolutely love cooking. I watch 30-minute meals when, speaking of cooking and eating during the show, like we promised. But I love 30-minute meals. I used to watch Rachel Ray with my father on the on the Food Network, not the Cooking Network. They're two different things. Food Network. And I used to say, I think she'd actually be a good talk show host. I remember saying that. And I said, you know what? F it. I'm going to go find the ticket tapings. And there's this really great site. And this is not paid, so I don't want to hear shit after this episode that I did this because we had a paid plug. We don't have sponsors yet. We don't.
Not for this show, at least.
Well, none of our shows yet. But so...
Quick, don't give away the game. Damn it.
Fuck everybody. No, I'm just kidding. So, but there's this really great site called oneiota.com, which is all the TV tapings in New York and Los Angeles. And what's so great about this whole thing, they're all free. All you have to do is pick a date, get the tickets you want, and then just show up. So
and it seemed like it was a really fun time.
It was a fun time, but the problem was the taping did not start until close to 11 o'clock, and we showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that was your fault.
No, because we had to get online. Because apparently when you get online, that's how they kind of determine where you can sit.
Okay, so I'm trying to put together like a mental image of this. So how many of the people online would you say, what percentage were tourists?
They're
I'm
actually
not talking, didn't live in New York City. I'm talking about didn't live in New York.
A good amount, actually. There was, you would think most of these tapings, since they're in the city, it would be a lot in New York. There were some people from Canada there.
There's some people I would imagine there are people from all over the world.
I'm trying to think what else there was. No, but there was a lot of West Coast too. Like there was some Utahs, there was some California. It was kind of cool not sitting in just a New York only audience.
And it was the one thing, and the one thing they had in common was they all love Rachel Ray. And the thing about Rachel Ray that I always felt was good about her was the fact that after all these years, when we find out so many think about the culture of the Food Network at the time, 2005, 2006, guys like Mario Batali, guys like Anthony Bourdain, guys like to a lesser extent Guy Fieri. It was kind of to learn that she is one of the few people there that is not toxic in some way. Because Bobby Flay has his issues. Mario Batali, where do I even begin? Bourdain, I think was respected, but I think he was a lot more adversarial, and he stepped on a lot of toes.
He was kind of secretive, though, wasn't he?
He was kind of secretive, but it says a lot that you have and Guy Fieri has this too, and he took a lot of shit. He still takes a lot of shit for his image of like bro food and the bad Pete Wells review of his restaurant in Times Square a couple years back that went viral, and I really never got it because food is supposed to be unpretentious.
Well, food is
many things.
Food is supposed to be an art. It's not supposed to be judgmental. It's not supposed to be. Food can be made any way you interpret food to be made.
You can eat at McDonald's and you can eat at a 5-star restaurant all on the same day.
Well, that's kind of nuts, but I know what you mean. But by the way, did you know that story about Warren Buffett, that weird rumor that he said that he would go to a McDonald's or a Burger King for breakfast? That's what he did.
Oh, yeah. I totally believe that.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
But they don't recognize him.
You think he walks in with a disguise or like a fake mustache?
Fake mustache, maybe funny glasses. Ask me about my $1 billion fortune T-shirt.
Wait a minute. You mean would he pull the Bobby Valentine with the Mets, where he was in the dugout with the fake mustache?
or he's got the shirt that says "Who farted" on it.
Oh man!
But the thing about Rachel Ray, I mean, it sounded like a good time. There wasn't really a lot. She is, first of all, clear this up for me. She's actually cooking, right?
She cooks, yes. But what's interesting?
But she's cooking in front of you. Food is being made. That's
Yes.
not actually.
We saw the ovens go on. We heard the frying. And was kind of cool, we went on a Taco Tuesday edition of
course,
of the show. But we got to see the magic of cooking on television.
Which,
now,
when you say magic, clear that up when you say magic.
Yeah, so let me explain. If you've ever watched a cooking show, afterwards, you don't get to see what they're actually doing. Like, you just see that when they come back from the break, it looks like, oh, they were just cooking through the break and nothing happened. Well, what actually happens was, and just to break down how the show works, there's 3 blocks of cooking, and then there's 4 blocks where they do a talk segment and they have a couple guests. So they did the 3 cooking segments first. So obviously you start at the beginning. That's block A, where they're starting to make the taco meat. And they had these really cool shell holders, like the things that actually hold the hard shells up.
Oh, they were doing the hard shell thing, the real gringo tacos.
Yes. It was really kind of cool. And they had those weird devices that hold the shells up in place. And then...
Hands?
No, it was like these weird, like metal.
Yeah, but hands do that, don't they?
I guess. Kind of. Well, if we're just eating tacos anyway. By the way, tacos one of my favorite food, by the way. So then they break, and then they come back and set up the second. All of a sudden, I see someone coming out of the back with a pan with the meat in it on the next level already.
So it's like having 8 different pairs of hands, and they're all like they're coming out of different rooms with food.
And by the way, I'm not saying anything that's like secret or anything like this.
Yeah, this is common knowledge, right?
Yeah. First of all, if they tried to do it in one continuous cooking, they wouldn't be able to get the proper shots.
They wouldn't be able to get the proper shot, and the food would probably taste terrible.
So they come back from the break. And by the way, they have this funny comedian who goes to all the shows. He's the warm-up act, like for all the live TV tapings. His name is Joey Cola. And hilarious. He makes fat jokes about himself. And like he's really...
Yeah. So kind of like a John Panette, like John Panette or Gabriel Iglesias, that kind of thing.
So he was great. And also he would be standing in front while behind the cameras, even though it's in front of us. And he would give like all the signals, like when to clap really loud, when something happens, or to laugh. Like that was his job.
Going like this?
Yes. No, but he was using hand signals for everything.
Oh, like that. Yeah,
like to laugh or like to clap really loud.
Yeah.
Like that was his. Can you imagine being paid just to show up to live TV tapings, just telling an audience to laugh or to?
Thing is, if a segment goes terribly, you would never know because the audience is going to clap no matter what.
No, the warm-up guy, like I told you, he's been to so many TV tapings, he knows when to tell the audience to do certain things. He was that good. But I mean, we could laugh or clap for ourselves anyway, but he would kind of give us like a direction of what to expect. By the way, she does not dress like the typical person on TV, Rachel Ray.
I mean, I always liked that about her. I always liked that there was something unpretentious about her. Because you always felt like with somebody like Barefoot Contessa, you always felt like she was kind of playing up the Southern belle of it all. Like
yes,
like she was kind of.
That wasn't her, by the way.
Look how rich I am in my Hamptons mansion.
That wasn't her, by the way.
I know that wasn't her, but I'm saying. I mean, I feel like with a lot of female talent, I think the Food Network is wanting them to be as waspy, unrelatable, and as rich as possible.
You know what's funny though, and most people don't know this. You do know that Rachel Ray's talk show is partially produced by the Food Network, right?
Yes, it is.
So even though it's in ABC syndication, they still own a portion of her show.
Of course,
the Food Network.
of course, you would never think that a loudmouth fat guy like me would love Food Network. But hey, here we are.
But it was fun. We got to see the different tapings. They would break. We get to see some of the cool things they do behind the scenes. We got to see her recording the promos for the different local TV networks
Yeah.
in between segments. And then she had on quite a few people. I don't know. They made us sign something that technically we're not supposed to talk about who the guests are. But you really think they're going to come out?
They made you sign an NDA?
Not an NDA, but like it was mostly a COVID form just to acknowledge that like we're wearing masks and everything. And if you win a prize, that we will send it to you and not to sue them or whatever and blah, 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 blah. So
I would immediately feel like I was ripped off because if I'm going to a taping of a cooking show, I want what she's making.
Well, it's a cooking / talk show. It's not just a cooking show. And you have to remember, she's not making enough for the crowd. She's making it as a food item, like a dinner made item.
Hey, I didn't say my dreams were actually plausible. I'm just saying that's what I'm just saying that's what I want.
But long story short, and I'll try to move on because we've spent a lot on this topic, is all of a sudden this big gift that's wrapped like a Christmas present comes out on the table. And I forgot to mention the show that Kyle and I went to, that's my other friend who helps us do some stuff on this network, it was the first episode for the season on the 13th. That's the official return of her being in the studio for the first time in 2 years. And 2 years. Think about that.
It's been a long time.
So we get to the end of the episode, and all of a sudden she's like, well, I have a prize for the whole audience. And I'm like...
And you guys are thinking, come on, Oprah. Come on, car.
Right.
Come on, car.
So... Well, first of all, you have to remember, I told you and I told everybody who's listening here that we walked in with free tickets. So there's nothing to complain about here.
Like, no, there's nothing to complain about. Not that people wouldn't complain anyway, because that's what they like to do. They complain.
Right. And then all of a sudden, Vitamex Splendor.
Which is a good get. It is a good get, because usually you don't get a Vitamex Splendor unless you go to a wedding or something.
This was like close to a $300 blender.
Which, yeah, all you had to do was throw in a stand mixer, and you got the entire Home Shopping Network lineup.
So I was like, and like the whole crowd goes wild. There's 70 people in there, by the way. So 70 people got it.
They make it seem bigger.
Well, I think it's COVID restricted 70.
Oh.
Because there was 4 rows, 2 rows of couches, 2 rows of seats. Unfortunately, we got the seats, not the couches. Because that would be my luck. But it was a good time. We got to meet some of the people that were walking around, and it was an interesting experience. They just redid the studio for the first time in 2 years. It looked like her house. Now, I don't know if you know her whole story, but her house actually burned down during the pandemic.
Yes, it did. Yeah, I remember hearing that.
So, and for some reason this year she's doing a hybrid where she's back for this month only, taping in New York in the city, and then she's going to go back to her house and tape episodes again, which I don't understand. It's kind of weird.
I mean, when you got a kick-ass house like she does, why would you want to leave?
Well, when you're making $23 million a year, I don't think I would complain.
Money talks and bullshit has to ride the bus.
All right. So that was the Rachel Ray experience. I recommend oneiota.com. You're looking for free tickets. That's not a paid spot. I'm just recommending it's a good site. So
we are actually sponsored by Balance of Nature.
Oh, don't say that.
But we're going to have to hold off on that.
Don't say that. We don't want people shitting and getting off the pot. Oh. But speaking of shitting and getting off the pot, Facebook.
So everybody else's thumbs is like they were shaking like heroin addicts at this point, because I've noticed something, and correct me if I'm wrong. Do you remember when Facebook was first opened up to non-college students? That was around 2008 or so.
I do. I think it was like wait a minute, was it 2010 or was it?
No, it was like about 2008 or so, because I joined right before my senior year in high school.
God, so you're telling me it's been like 14 years? Almost?
It has.
God, I feel old.
My point though is, do you remember people telling us, or our parents telling us, or older people telling us, Facebook is going to rot your brain, you and your teenagers and your social media.
They're still doing that.
Now it turns out our parents are using Facebook more, and the Facebook goes off for 6 hours, and the adults are throwing a shit fit.
Oh,
I mean, it's not like I'm not an adult here. I'm 30, but still, the middle-aged section of America is my point.
that's pretty much us if you think about it. I mean, you're 30.
We're
You're
not
30.
middle-aged yet.
Well,
you're not even out of your 20s.
well, I'm saying we're on the average, like over, but like you're 30, I'm 28. So, but when I saw, and I was doing something on Facebook like 30 minutes before it went down, like because I was doing some promotion for our podcast network, and all of a sudden I get that weird spinning circle mouse, and it says error, error, and I was like, "What is going on here?" And then I had this weird theory where I thought where I was hearing this in my head. Like I thought I was blocked from Facebook or something, and so then I start I try to go to my Messenger app on my phone, and that's not working. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened here?
We have an Instagram page for the network that didn't work.
God.
I have WhatsApp. I don't even know what I use it for, but that wasn't working.
So everything is down. The only one, you know who laughed during that day while those were down?
Twitter
was
Jack fucking Dorsey.
He was laughing, and I don't know if you saw the tweet that went out that hi, we're still here. Hi.
And I mean, hey, you can't post in anti-vax forums or QAnon adjacent stuff anymore. Oh my God, what will you do with your free time?
You know what? This is what Jack Dorsey was saying about Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.
Look at all the failure.
But you can't really say that. I mean, it is kind of weird timing that the day before a whistleblower was on 60 Minutes saying this company is basically doesn't give a shit about you, regulate it to hell.
Are we surprised, though?
Are we surprised? No.
Are we surprised that after a whistleblower that the network decides to get itself hacked?
Look, wait. You're suggesting that this is some kind of publicity stunt?
No, I'm not saying it's a publicity stunt. I'm just saying, I think that possibly they tried to shut it down because they were like, well, F you, whistleblower. We're going to
take our ball and go home for the day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, I've made my feelings on social media very clear on all the podcasts that I've been on over the years. If I had my druthers, it'd all be shut down and thrown into the sea because it's really done more to harm the fabric of democracy throughout the world than you wouldn't think that a medium that you could look at your look at pictures of your grandkids could also be used as a tool for ethnic cleansing in Myanmar. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. And I'm looking at the story. So basically, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp went down from 11:40 a.m. Eastern time to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time.
And during that time, Zuckerberg's fortune tanked by like $7 billion.
$8 billion.
$8 billion. Ooh.
And you know what?
Oh my God! Now he only has several $100 billion. Whatever
you know what?
Will he do?
I was kind of laughing at Mark because I was like, let's play Russian roulette with Mark Zuckerberg's net worth.
And all of this is because some nerd at Harvard couldn't get a date, and he wanted to get revenge on the ladies who turned him down.
You do know that Facebook, before it was actually just Facebook, it was called The Facebook.
Yes, I know. I saw The Social Network.
That movie was good, by the way. It was a good movie.
It was.
If you want a good movie to watch The Social Network. It's a really good movie. It's not all true.
The thing about The Social Network is they don't exactly give you a glowing... It's not exactly a hagiography of Facebook or Mark Zuckerberg. You come away from that movie thinking they're both sociopaths.
Well, and by the way, if people didn't know, the Winklevoss twins are real.
Yeah, they are real.
Because people thought, in these movies, you accentuate names and make them up. No, go look it up. It's real.
No, they're real.
They got a significant payoff to walk away.
They don't look like Armie Hammer, but nowadays I think that might actually be a good thing.
But you know what's crazy, though, about this whole story? Like, they're saying businesses lost millions of dollars.
Because they use Facebook and Instagram for advertising.
And not just that, like influencers, where they put their sponsored videos up or their products, they earn money. Our other show with Tom, who doesn't like the Paul brothers, you get influencers like that who can't put their videos and things up. They can't earn their money.
They can't earn their money, and they can't actually take a bath in solid gold today. Oh my God, the poor thing.
But you know what's fucked up? Whoever hacked this, it got to the point where they couldn't get in the building. They could not get in the building because they hacked the cards in the building.
You can't tell me there was not something else at work here. You can't tell me that. I'm sorry.
I'm not buying that this was 100% like foreign, like away from Facebook. Like I feel like someone was behind it.
No, but you know, there's no use in sitting here debating about it when they're up and they haven't gone down permanently and they're not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. And that's the problem. That they don't, that people don't recognize the danger, or at least they're starting to recognize the danger that these platforms pose.
Yeah,
I recognize the irony of having our Twitter accounts scroll across the bottom third of the screen. However, understanding the danger and trying to use the tool responsibly, two different things.
All right. Speaking of horrible platforms and doing horrible things on social media, let's talk about Sage Steele from ESPN. So,
yeah, go ahead.
So we hear this story a couple days ago that ESPN Sage Steele, who I think we can both admit, we actually liked her growing up. Like she actually,
I had no idea she was like this, so it might just be me being oblivious.
So she gets pulled off air after knocking the company's vaccine mandate. And it's not in this full quote, but what she says is, quote, sick and scary about the vaccine. And then to make things worse, she starts questioning Obama's heritage and race.
So in case you weren't fully on board the stupid express, she had to take she had to time travel back to 2010.
Yeah. So, and we all know, just so people understand, ESPN is a lefty network.
They like to think they are.
Or they pretend to be.
They pretend to be. They like to, even though, you know, we'll get into the fallout from this, but it's two different things.
So Sage Steele goes on a podcast. Now, when I told the guys, when I told Tom and I told you, Nick, about which podcast she went on, you almost blew a gasket, right? Before I say what the name is.
Yes, and I'm surprised that no one is talking about that element of it. But why don't you go ahead and tell them what it is?
So the podcast that she went on was Uncut with Jay Cutler.
So just so you know, the last time we saw Jay Cutler, he was posing in front of his house naked, I think.
Well, he had that show with Cavallari, which they're now.
Oh yeah, so,
which I don't think they're together anymore. Anyway,
nah, not that it matters. Him and his 7 children, but still, the fact. I thought that Sage Steele was one of the smart. To find out that basically she is the sports version of Candace Owens, and a right-wing nut job she is so angling for a gig at Fox News. Oh my God, she's just begging. You know what? Because she is begging to get fired. Because then you could say, "See, the liberal media tried to cancel me. I'm the truth teller." And meanwhile, she rakes in millions of dollars from gullible rubes, and the cycle repeats itself again.
But what doesn't make sense, and I'll read some of the comments because some of these comments are so ridiculous that Nick and I almost broke out in rashes over how this stupidity can happen. We're not surprised. Let's make that clear.
Not in the slightest.
So while recording the podcast, Steele made multiple comments that left many in the sports media scratching their heads. While talking about ESPN's company vaccine mandate, this is what I started to refer to before. Steele said she respects an individual's decision to get the COVID-19 vaccine, quote, but to mandate it, it is sick and it's scary to me. That's number one. So What are you doing? You work for a public company.
You work for a public company, and it's not infringing on. And first of all, you can't say it's your First Amendment right, because because Facebook is a private company. It can do whatever the fuck it wants, and if they believe that you are you present a public health hazard, then they will take steps to correct it. And in order to do that, you vaccinate and you mask. And if you have a problem with it, it's their way or the highway.
See, and this is a little bit of a controversial take, but in my opinion, I think the rules should be that you either need to get vaccinated to work somewhere or you can't work there anymore.
Well, that essentially is what New York City's doing. That's what a vaccine mandate is.
No, but I'm saying the whole country.
Oh, a national vaccine mandate.
Yes. And I know people are gonna get angry at me for saying that and whatever, but this is how we stop the issues.
My freedom. Your freedom to do what? Your freedom to get sick and go to the hospital? Why would you want to do that?
Right. And I'm watching all over the network news, all over the different networks. So I'm seeing everything from left to right because I could give two craps really about politics, to be quite honest. And they're all saying that, well, we need to get the vaccine. We don't need to get the vaccine. The numbers are going down. Well, why are they going down? You're getting the vaccine.
And you're masking and you're socially distancing, especially in California, even though it's nowhere near as low as it should be. And we've got nowhere near the vaccine uptake that we should have, especially since we're getting into boosters. But that's a conversation for another day. Yeah.
And again, I don't like politics, but it has to do with the conversation.
It shouldn't be political, though. That's the thing.
Right. And you and I agree on this point that the vaccine should just be the vaccine and getting healthy. Not
with something like this. How the fuck did we ever eradicate polio? How the fuck did we ever eradicate polio?
What about swine flu?
Because if this was around in the 40s, in the 40s, we'd still be dealing with people in iron lungs.
What about swine flu? This is more relatable to when we were younger. So, like when we saw something happen, remember we were in high school and we would get these letters that say someone has swine flu, you have to get out of school or you're going to infect everyone. This is the same thing. COVID is the same thing as swine flu.
Well, it's exponentially deadlier, of course.
No, but I'm just saying it's the same thought process. You get vaccinated and then you work through it.
Yes, I understand that, but the disinformation machine, it just keeps making so much money, and they don't want to stop.
And watch.
I'm talking about the people shilling horse paste and nebulizing hydrogen peroxide as if that's gonna fucking work.
You mean ivermectin?
Yes, horse paste or sheep paste.
Go ask Joe Rogan; he knows a thing or two about that.
Oh God!
But we're off the rails as we usually say. But I'll pull us back in on this story, saying that was one thing that Sage Steele said. Then the one that probably made Nick and I our blood boil was the whole comment about Obama. Now, this whole thing confused me. So she goes on and makes comments. Let me make sure I have the right ones. She spoke to Cutler about her identity as a mixed race woman, which, by the way, did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
I didn't know she was a mixed race woman. She looks black to me. And that's not insulting.
Well, I'm just black.
Right, but I'm saying I thought she was full black. I'm not trying to insult.
She's multiracial.
Right, I didn't know that. That's just, I'm learning that now. So she apparently was questioning Obama's decision to identify as black on the census. And so she says, I'm like, well, congratulations to the president. That's his thing. I think that's fascinating considering his black dad was nowhere to be found, but his white mom and grandma raised him. But hey, you do you, I'm going to do me.
Okay. So the reason why this got my blood boiling is A, it's 2021. He's not the president anymore. We're two presidents past him at this point. Why the fuck are we even bringing it up? And number two, what the fuck does his father not being in his life have to do with anything?
I hate to unfortunately say this, but it's true. In black families, there's studies out there that the father is not there sometimes.
But it does not mean that they.
But it doesn't mean anything.
People.
No. I was just pointing out what she might be thinking.
I think that's what she thinks. That's what she thinks she's trying to say, but it comes
It's
off
wrong, though. She shouldn't.
Yes,
That's judgmental. It's judgmental, first of all. And two, what does this have to do with being on a podcast with Jay Cutler?
It doesn't. That's exactly it. It doesn't. So you just go back to that old. You go back to that old chestnut, and you keep hammering it until it cracks.
It's just crazy. And then you have former ESPNers, Jeopardy Champion and Jamel Hill, who were going off, which rightly so, by the way.
And Jamel Hill was the smart. Has always been smarter than so many people gave her credit for.
So, Jeopardy Champion, who we all know very well, we don't understand why she was ever let go from ESPN.
That's ESPN for you. Do they ever make smart decisions?
Well, if we have time at the end quickly, there's another name that's possibly heading out the door that you don't even know about that I found out today. But so Jeopardy Champion went on to say, Steele's comments implied so many things that were hurtful, who stated that she has worked with Steele in the past, quote, and it also shows that there's a lack of an awareness on her part. So that was a direct quote from Jeopardy Champion. I don't see anything from Jamel Hill in this story at the moment, but we saw past issues with ESPN. This is not just a Sage Steele issue. This might be an ESPN issue. We talked about Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor, for crying out loud.
But this is what I'm talking about with the double standard with ESPN. Because remember when Jamel Hill earned the wrath of Trump, and what ESPN did? They couldn't shove her out the door fast enough. But Sage Steele just gets a slap on the wrist.
I will say the one weird thing, and I'm not saying it's right. The reason Jamel got thrown out the door is because she made an insult to Jerry Jones of the Cowboys, and ESPN is in bed with the NFL. Not saying that's right.
And commerce always comes first when it comes to them. So
that's the only thing that I could think.
You can't fuck with the money bag.
Right. But in this case, race has no dollar value on it.
I mean, it shouldn't.
But I'm saying you can't talk about race and expect it not to come bite you in the ass.
So, you know what? If there's one thing that I've learned in my time as a white man on the internet, it's to know when to sit down and shut the fuck up.
I mean, Sage, unfortunately, you got to go. You got to go.
I mean, seriously, you really need to do some heavy duty apologizing here.
No, I don't think even apologies would fix this, Nick.
Again, but they always try to paper it. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet.
And the sick part is, well, that's another part of the story I forgot to mention. She tested positive for COVID the same week that they had to deal with this situation.
Oh, boy.
So people are confused on the internet. Is she out due to COVID? Is she out due to her comments? ESPN's in a pickle.
Of course, they're going to be like the old El Paso commercials. Why not both?
The problem is they're a sour pickle at this point because they don't know which way to lean at this point. Sorry, that's the jokes you got to deal with on here. But I don't know. I hate this because Sage Steele, I used to watch a lot on ESPN.
I know.
That was my growing up. I watched her on NBA Countdown. I watched her on a bunch of other shows. I'm kind of glad they took her off NBA Countdown because that was kind of ruining that.
But it's not even it just sucks.
I hate this. Like, I went from liking her and giving her praise over the years to now, F you, I hope you get fired. Like,
well, that's pretty much how it goes nowadays.
And you and I think agree on this standpoint. We don't want people to lose their jobs. We don't believe in that.
I would like you to not lose your job, but I also would like you to have a modicum of empathy for people who don't have the same experiences as you do.
Right. And like I said, for me to get like that means I have a serious thought.
Problem.
Like, I have no words. This is the first time I haven't had words.
Yeah,
for something.
You're usually not this speechless.
I don't know. The race thing just bothers me because I've been through it, and I'll tell this story from time to time. Like, when I worked in the city for WABC, I saw the riots. I saw it all. It was very scary.
again, but that has nothing to do with what Sage Steele is trying to fucking talk about.
But wait a
I
minute,
don't even know
Nick.
what the fuck she's trying to talk about.
Nick, what was that comment you made to me that I think you were saying was like irony that she was basically joking about a black president when she's black?
I don't know if I made that joke.
Not a joke, but you were just saying it was irony. Like,
well, I mean, if anything, you should understand what Barack Obama's going. If he had any kind of crisis of identity, which I hope he didn't, but I think she thinks that what is good for the goose is good for the gander, and I just don't see it that way.
I guess it's just one of those weird situations where I guess we just got to put up with it and move on. So, all right, we have a few more and we're a little over time here. We'll get through these quickly. So, from controversy to more controversy. So, if you've been watching Jeopardy, this is the first time in a long time we've had a long Jeopardy champion on the stand.
He has already beaten James Holzhauer, and I think he's in the 2 million range.
I think he's at 1.5. He's at 1.5 million.
And it is definitely a thing you need to take a mind off the fact that you can't hire a permanent guest host.
But it's just crazy, and people are getting mad because he said. Have you been following that he answers every question?
He answers these questions weird.
So he says what, even if it's a person, like he'll say.
He always says what if and not who it. What is or who is or. I was just about to say why is, but that doesn't make sense.
No, but people got mad, and Jeopardy had to come out at one point and say and defend him and say, as long as the answer is in a form of a question, it doesn't matter how you answer.
It doesn't matter how you phrase that question.
So, like, people were taking shots at him, and James Holzhauer took a shot at him on Twitter.
I mean, he beat his record. Why wouldn't he be salty?
Well, he beat him in days. He hasn't beaten him in money yet.
Now, when you said he was getting feisty on social media, what did he say?
So I'm going down. Oh, so because he actually quote tweeted James's tweet because James said, "I've been betting sports since 2005, and this is the first time I've seen anyone hit a 33-game parlay. Congratulations, at Amodio Matt on Twitter." And Matt quote tweeted the tweet and said, "I'm so proud that a cursory glance of the Jeopardy record book can now yield a wrong conclusion about which one of us is the better player." Ouch.
I think, you know what? I think he knows that that people just don't like him, and he's just, yeah, I know you think I'm a nerd, but I don't care. I still got more money than you do.
What's so great, though, he's a PhD student. He's studying.
He is a PhD student.
So you really think that dumb comments on Twitter are going to get past him? No. So
I mean, I'd hate to see the fact that I'd hate to see this streak come to an end due to itchy Twitter fingers, but
what's weird though is like apparently he came out on Twitter. It's not in this story, but he said it's possible his Jeopardy run might be coming to an end soon.
So is he trying to say he lost and is trying to soften the blow?
You have to remember though, they tape like 3-4 months out.
They tape in advance, so
I don't know if he
must have told. If he lost, he must have told somebody by now.
No, because they have to sign that. I think you actually have to sign NDAs when you're a contestant on Jeopardy. So you won't know until they lose. But people need to take a deep breath. I love when there are long streaks on Jeopardy and you see these guys. And Matt reminds me of James. He gambles and makes high wagers on daily doubles and Final Jeopardy. It's fun to watch.
Not saying most of us do when we follow along on the TV.
Right. I mean, but people need to relax and just let it go. Let it roll off your back. Goose fraba. Goose fraba.
What is chill?
Exactly. All right. One more story, and then we'll wrap it up. And then at the end, we'll just give you an idea of what's going to go forward with this show. So, final episode. Talk about being chill. Winning $700 million at the Powerball Jackpot sold in California. One ticket.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I've ever made my feelings about the Powerball lottery clear. I don't think I've ever had a chance to mention anything like this on any podcast I've been in. But I can say that nobody gives a shit about the lotto unless you win the lotto. And then everybody gives a shit. And then people start coming out the woodwork with, hey, I'm your fifth cousin once removed. Give me money.
And you know what they're saying?
I hate you. Get the out of here.
700 million. That might actually be enough to get you a good studio apartment in San Francisco.
I mean, I would so love, because we all play this game. Like, if we won the lottery, what the heck would we do with the money?
What would I do? I mean, I definitely would be able to get the solid gold toilet I've always been telling you guys about.
God, that would be so much fun. We just take pictures and put it up on social media.
That would be a dream fulfilled. That would be a promise I made to you guys 5 years ago, finally coming to fruition.
I mean, bravo. Because usually when the lottery is won, a lot of times you get 4 or 5 tickets, and then you have to split it, and then it becomes a whole thing, and like, it's unreal.
It's a blood. Try and find out who won.
Oh God, I don't even know. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Winning $700 million.
I didn't even know what to do with that. Do you?
What was that?
I don't even know what that kind
of... Nick is so happy about the money that I think he partially froze on the screen. But this is so crazy that I don't even know what I would do with this money. I don't know what I would... And I would just say, woo! Money!
Would you walk around naked?
No.
Come on. I'm not.
But
I'm not daring you.
Oh, God. I don't know what I would do. This is crazy. I'm just totally befuddled by this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
$700 million in California. It's not like New York where you'd have to pay half a fuckload on taxes.
Plus, there's a lot of you can own a basketball team. Hey, who wants to buy the Clippers?
You know what? I think I would just purposely like go to the Mets and be like, I'll give you $20 million. You give me 1%.
What's $700 million get me? If that doesn't get me Francisco Lindor.
Francisco Lindor, yuck. Actually, you know what? I don't want any shortstop in New York right now. How about that? I don't want Gleyber Torres.
Oh, please don't talk to me about baseball right now. We're gonna get into that when we get to empty the bench on Saturday. But
by the way,
my God.
Just a quick warning. I forgot to mention this. We're not the sports show that Empty the Bench is. We will talk sports from time to time. But as you notice, we talked a lot of non-sports today.
That's the point.
So get used to it, folks. This is not Empty the Bench. This is Beyond the Bench, where we get to talk about it all. And we might even talk some ridiculous topics while we're at it.
So going forward, this is the Beyond the Bench is actually going to be it's going to be Friday going forward. So
you're going to see this on Friday. Hopefully you're watching, and I think this will go up, even though it's not going to make sense because I'm saying it after it's going to go up. It'll probably go up at 6 p.m. Friday, and that's when we're going to put them up, and you'll get to see our wackiness at its finest. We'll try to get some guests along the way. We'll try. I can't promise. I have a Rolodex, but I have to go and look in that Rolodex and see if the numbers still work. So they could have been blocked, or someone might not like me and they might have blocked me. But
so that will do it for us for here this week on Beyond the Bench for our inaugural episode. We finally made it to the end. So what I can say to you is that I'm Nick Fodera, and I'll see you back on the bench.
We will see you next week. We will see you for episode 2. Follow the show at Beyond the Bench, BYOND the Bench. and facebook.com/Beyond the Bench. And like Nick said, we will see you on the bench, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.